everyone, and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
And today we are going to review the next leg of Spider-Man 2099. Not nearly as many issues as last time, because Dan and I discovered that right in the middle of what we're reviewing, or what we were going to review, there is a big story arc that runs through several other 2099 books, and we don't have all of those yet. So we're going to today review from 11 to 15, and then next time we're gonna hopefully have gotten our hands on the rest of that, because it goes through like Ravage and I think Punisher 2099, and
it goes through Ravage, X-Men, Doom, and Punisher. So I think it goes through all the 2099 books. Like, curse you, 1990s, your extremist crossovers. Come on, guys.
So we do kind of want to review that. If we're not able to get our hands on all of that, we may go ahead and just move ahead and skip that and just briefly mention 16 and then move on. But anyway, so that's where we're at today. So probably this won't be a real long video because we won't have a ton to say about this stuff, but we'll talk about what's going on. So Dan, Peter David's, and we said this last time, his biggest weakness seems to be original supervillains.
Yeah, I don't want to say that they're bad because there's not really all that much resolution with any of them in these issues. Like, both of the villains that show up, there's like this Greek-looking dude named Thanatos, and he, has this thing going on with the Greek Omega symbol that signifies the, the end of time and stuff. It's the end of the Greek alphabet. This is a whole thing about that. And then there's some dude that just comes out of a portal that's based on Reed Richards technology, and we have no idea what either of these people's motivations are, or like why they're doing anything they're doing.
No, and we don't know what that guy's actual name is or where he comes from. We suspect that he is probably someone we know from earlier Marvel, but we don't know yet. And he's only referred to as the Net Prophet because we gotta have puns.
It makes the distinction that he's a guy from some other time, because when he comes out of the portal, he asks what the date is, and he's like 2099. Oh my god! And that's a whole thing.
Yeah, but I didn't get a sense, and I will say that I was not nearly as engaged reading these as I was the last set. I had to concentrate pretty hard to get through at least up to a certain point with these. The first three of these today I thought were a little bit rough to get through, and I thought that. Reading that guy, the Net Prophet, I wasn't even sure if it ever came out and said that he was definitely from the past or the future. Like, I think they were totally ambiguous as to what that guy is and where he comes from.
Yeah, he's just out of time to some degree, and we don't know how, why. They go to, like, this unreality dimension kind of thing where it looks like Miguel O'Hara's, like, tripping acid or something.
Yeah.
And, like, he starts seeing, like, people that he knows, and they start talking to him. And it kind of calls back to, like, that Spider-Man John Romita thing where he'd have, like, Spider-Man walking in the intro page and all, like, the floating heads of everyone he knows yelling at him and stuff. That's, like, a Spider-Man thing. But, like, I didn't really see, like, any sort of... Like, I was just confused. I didn't know what was going on, because they get thrown into this portal. We don't know what the portal really does. We just know it's like Reed Richards technology that goes to some dimension. It's not the negative zone, because it doesn't look like the negative zone, and there's no negative zone-y things going on. It's just some unreality dimension. I don't know what they're trying to use the portal for.
It's this new guy named Jordan Boone who gets hired by Stone to take over for Miguel when Miguel's not around, and he's just playing with technology and trying to figure out how to do things that's never been done before. So I'm pretty sure that the portal was opened just because he's experimenting. I don't think there was anything else behind it.
They make mention of the fact that it was a project before he got there.
Oh!
Yeah.
I missed that, okay.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know what all that's about, and like I said, like, this is a very much so, like, a long-form narrative kind of thing, so
yeah, well,
you just might not be reading... And this feels like set up for something that might be resolved right after the crossover happens. Maybe David was just filling in space, or like needed to cut the story off here. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, I want to trust it, because when we get into 14 and 15 and we start dealing with the Sky City, and also with going back to downtown, and obviously it's no obviously it's no coincidence that we're doing both of those things at the same time. Being in the sky and underground a lot, there's a theme in this. Like when we get to that stuff, it seems like he's paying off some things, and or not even paying off some things, but just like, okay, he set up these locations earlier, and now he's going back and really doing more stuff with them. So he obviously is setting up some long-form stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping the Net Prophet actually comes back and stuff, and that we learn what he is. And I guess while I was reading that, I wasn't, because we moved away from it so fast, I guess I wasn't 100% trusting that it would even ever culminate in anything. But I guess I probably should, because not only, and I can't believe I'm saying this, because it's weird that we reviewed Simonson right before this, I feel like David is influenced highly by Simonson writing this.
Yeah, like they're doing the long-form storytelling thing.
But also,
really,
but also because he's doing Thor stuff, and I feel like the structure of how he's doing this, plus the big other Marvel thing he's doing is Thor, and it's all stuff that was all the mentions are things that were dealt with in Simonson. I really kind of get the feeling that he was highly influenced by that. Working on this.
He probably was. I would imagine so. And I'm with you. Like, I started to get really engaged when Thor started showing up, and they were showing Valhalla, like humans trying to play God building. Like that's Valhalla is like the place where honor warriors go to drink and party. It's like heaven, but the Viking style. You just go there and drink and party, and you have a great time for all of eternity. So like, Alchemix like trying to build that is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And like, there's some like little ideas that could become something later on with the villains, especially, that I think might be cool. Like, I like the idea of like a dude that models himself in the ancient Greeks, like coming to this future where people don't think and like existing, because the Greeks are very much romanticized. They weren't actually like this all the time, but they're romanticized as this very like high thinking kind of culture. You know what I mean? Especially the Athenians. They they produce Aristotle, Plato, Aristotle, all those guys, like the ancient philosophers. So. I think that's an interesting idea potentially, but they don't really do anything with that. It's just that he looks vaguely Greek and goes around and does things for a reason we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, more of the commentary about how people don't think in the future is dealt with Miguel and Lila. Like a lot of the things that could have been done with the villains, I feel like are actually handled in other places in more of the human drama stuff, right? And I mean, like I won't say that I wasn't intrigued by the whole Net Prophet thing. Like I want that to come back. I was kind of intrigued, and I want it to be somebody I know, because I feel like he's setting it up that way. But who knows? Maybe it can be interesting and not be somebody I know. I don't know. But like, especially the Thanatos guy, he struck me as really generic, and I'm hoping that when he comes back, he's not that. And it was also once again, it was another, or maybe he's making a point with this, it was another thing like the Vulture, because like Miguel worries about that because he helps him out, and then he's like, okay, the Vulture helped me out too, and then he turned out to be a psycho cannibal guy. So this guy does the same exact thing happens, and I think maybe he's going somewhere with that, where it's just like, it's this kind of sad, cynical, no one can be trusted in this world thing, and Miguel is going to have to help. He's going to have to, almost all by his lonesome, start a culture of trust again. Because that's the sense I was getting with the whole him going downtown and just helping people of his own accord, and people don't know what to do with that. That's so unusual and foreign to them, and so nobody trusts anybody, and so he's like setting a standard now. So maybe that's what he's saying with his villains, is that
yeah I think you're onto something there. Actually, I think that's a very good point. The thing that I really latched onto, the thing you were talking about with the human drama stuff, was the relationship between him and the AI. I think her name is Lila, right?
Yes.
That's her name. And she's starting to develop emotions now after Miguel told her to think in the previous set of issues that we had reviewed, and now she's like kind of has a crush on Miguel and is sabotaging in small ways he and Dan's relationship, and that's interesting. I like I don't know, whenever you have a sort of inhuman thing trying to be human, that just interests me inherently. I just think that's an interesting kind of sci-fi trope, because it's done everywhere, right? I mean, you see that with, like, you know, the Vulcans in Star Trek. You see it with, like, you know, any sort of sci-fi thing where a robot, like, has to try to be human and stuff like that. It's not original or anything, but those kind of ideas are interesting to me. So that's what I was really latching onto when the first couple issues here where, you know, Thanatos was running around.
He's doing a good job with it. You're right. It is a big trope we see everywhere. It's one of my favorite things, and the way, and it is kind of cool that he's doing it with a hologram, because that was a thing that Voyager did a few years after this, and like you know Trek was doing it with robots. We haven't seen it as much with holograms yet. Here, what we generally do with AI is we explore. We explore this aspect of humanity through something that is not human, saying something that human beings have the capacity to do is to be more than the sum of their parts, but do we always manage to achieve that? And if we, as human beings, with not knowing where our understanding of self comes from, our self-awareness, our intellect. If we don't know where that comes from, isn't it possible that something else could develop that, especially if it was something that we created? Because can't we somehow maybe accidentally imbue onto something the ability to do that because we were the ones that created it? It's a unique thing among humans, and so isn't it simply the desire to want to be better that inherently gets us to a place where we start to be better? And then, so anyway, that's one of my favorite things to dissect and deal with, and you know, and identity issues and all of that kind of stuff. And so I was really getting the sense in the early issues that Peter David was maybe going to go there with her, because she would occasionally say something that could be read in two ways. She would say things that would sound either like just crazy talk because she was programmed weird and the technology is not up to spec yet, or she's starting to develop self-awareness already and she doesn't, and she's socially awkward and doesn't know what to do with it, and doesn't know that it's actually happening. We actually get to experience in this the moment that she fully becomes self-aware. And I think it's kind of neat that we get that encapsulated in a moment, and it's been building to this, and you get the sense that it was already building before the series even started. It wasn't just over a few issues; like that was already happening. And so there's this moment in this, if you haven't read it, where he says, "Lila, I want your opinion on something," and she says, "Well, I don't have opinions. I'm not human. You have to be human to have opinions." And he says, well, and I love this line. This is probably my favorite thing in what we read today. He says, "I know." Most of the people I know think less than you do.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites too.
And so we actually get to see that happen right there.
Yeah, I thought it was very touching, like when she first becomes self-aware, like it's not necessarily like a moment where she has this revelation where it makes her life better in any way. Like the fact that she's a hologram and is self-aware of what she is, like, makes her break down and kind of dysfunction, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it's terrifying, sure. Well, because two things. First of all, it's probably going to mess with your programming because you're not built for that. You're not supposed to do that. So you know, and then like there's inherently some kind of like symbolic and metaphorical stuff going on there for when that happens in culture, right? Like when you go beyond your programming.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's like the culture as a whole in this universe. Like everyone's programmed to act a certain way, and when they become self-aware of what they are, they'll like
what happens when you start to be subversive. And then the other thing too, though, with her is if she starts to understand what's happening and contemplate being a self-aware hologram, what kind of future does she have? Like if you had this understanding of self and you had ambition and you were her, what could you do with it?
That's very true. And I looked at some of the covers for the future issues, and I think one of them specifically kind of spoils what happens, unfortunately.
Oh, well, don't tell me.
I won't tell you, but like we'll see if it goes the way that I'm thinking, because it kind of reminds me of like some of the things I've seen. But I'm sure Peter David will handle it well with her. But yeah, those are like the real big character things. Like, we don't really get any more progression for any of the main cast, really.
Not a lot. There's a little bit of stuff with we're inching along with the Stone Dana thing. It's going precisely where we figured it would, I think.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of honing in on Miguel's girlfriend, and because he's got to go out and be Spider-Man a lot, he's not able to be around and stop that from happening. But I like that Peter David is writing her, and he's always been really good with female characters. I think he's doing a good job of making her a good, strong female character who can think on her feet, and she doesn't need Miguel to solve all of her problems for her. So like, he's not gonna make her this two-dimensional character where Stone throws a bunch of money at her or whatever, and she goes, "Oh, I don't need you anymore, Miguel." I don't think that's gonna happen.
No, definitely not. I mean, like, especially one of the scenes in here, when Stone is kind of like trying to butter her up a little bit, and Miguel walks in the room, and immediately she's like, goes to him, and she's talking about how they're fiance and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
that was really uncomfortable for her. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it really uncomfortable for Stone, too. And that's a guy that, like, we've seen put in uncomfortable corporate situations where he's dealing with business and has to be this cutthroat, ruthless kind of guy. But we've never really seen him be tender and like loving towards another person, and I think he's kind of awkward at it, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't know how to do anything other than showboat for people. Like, he brings Dana over and he's like, "Look at all this cool stuff I have." He doesn't know how to like connect with a woman necessarily, you know what I mean, in the way that, anybody would,
Yeah, he's like Dr. Doom in the first Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's kind of a typical thing too, and we've said that about him ever since he was introduced. He's kind of a stereotypical CEO, but like, I like kind of contrasting him with the AI, where like, who's really more human, the AI who is conscious and can feel love and compassion, or this guy that looks at everybody as like, property to be conquered, you know what I mean? He's like, if I take this woman into my office and show her all the great things that I've accomplished, all the great things I can buy with my money, she will want me by virtue of my property and become a part of that collection. I feel like that's the way he looks at women.
We're getting these little potential flashes of humanity from him, maybe. We don't really know yet. And one of the things that I think David might be doing, and I guess I'm just kind of spitballing and guessing for the future right now, is I'm wondering if he is manipulating things and just trying to get what he wants or get what he wants for his company, or if he actually is genuinely falling for her. And that would be very interesting if that was actually happening, where we get this kind of contrast where I just thought of this, where the same woman brings out the humanity in both of these men who are enemies and hate each other. And we would see
that is interesting.
And we would see Miguel finding more and more of his humanity and getting in touch with that as he is Spider-Man and dealing with downtown, and he would be developing more and more humanity as he is falling in love with a human being. And I kind of hope that's where he's going with it.
I hope so too, and if he's going that way, that's almost the same exact parallel that the AI has too, right? Because like, two characters that are kind of inhuman in the way that they behave. I know Stone is literally a human being.
Yeah.
But he has many inhumane qualities about him in the way that, like, we look at humanity positively, at least. Like, he's definitely human, but it's kind of like all the bad aspects of humanity, right? And you have an AI that's kind of devoid of humanity completely, and both of them, like, fall in love, and that's what changes them. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, you're talking just physical humanity, as in, being physically human and having certain instincts, but like she is starting to show flashes of existential humanity, and it's interesting to wonder if he is also starting to do that. And also with Lila, I guess I'm jumping around, but she's getting jealous of Miguel's girlfriend. I guess that's where that has to go. Okay, we'll see what that's like. I'm not really into that yet, but I do like exploring her trying to become more than the sum of her parts. it's interesting if that's where it's going, because again, it's not like she could be with Miguel. You know what I mean? Yeah, seeing where all that goes will be very interesting. Another thing I wanted to mention is, has this occurred to you? Stone is simultaneously building heaven and hell. Have you noticed this? He's got this, like, Atlantis underwater thing going on.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And then he's also building Valhalla all at the same time. And I wonder if he's going to go anywhere with that idea. There's got to be something, and maybe it's not heaven and hell. Maybe I shouldn't say it that way. Maybe it's just more underground, above ground, like you know, because we have this literal, the people on the top versus the people on the bottom, and I feel like this is kind of a he wants to control it all kind of thing. So he's got to be both.
To play God. I mean, he literally created like where the most glorious of all the gods in Norse mythology live after death. And he wants to sort of create that sort of legacy for himself, I would imagine.
I guess I'm projecting and trying to figure out what he's saying with Atlantis, but hopefully we do something with that, because it's really only been a footnote so far.
Yeah, that was like one thing he showed off to her in her office, but I'm with you. Like, I found that whole idea of like an underwater theme park kind of thing, like harnessing, because that's like, the largest area of the earth that's unexplored at this point. Like, and utilizing that and corporatizing it, and it'd be interesting to see like what sort of ramifications that has on the earth and stuff like that. I would really like them to visit that. I'm sure they will. Peter David's one of those writers, like Simonson, that was mentioned before, making that parallel again. Like, Peter David pays off everything he sets up, so yeah. I'm pretty confident we'll go there at some point.
I feel I need to say this real quick. I didn't, just in case anybody's thinking this, I didn't bring up the Simonson thing just because that's the last thing we reviewed. I really think he's doing that.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's definitely the same sort of storytelling structure. And now that we've got Thor in the picture, and like comparing what Simonson wanted to say about Thor and what his that character is, the idea of what he is has been twisted so much.
It's
that's
terrifying.
Why it's scary.
Yeah, right? It is scary. We should mention that we both have read 16. Have you read 16?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and so we're not going to actually review that. We're not going to go into what this perverted version of Thor is right now, because we're going to review that next time. But we're bringing that up because we both have read that. What else? Can I complain about something totally random?
Oh, yeah.
And silly. Okay, I know. I don't feel like we have any kind of streamlining for this review right now. All right, so this is a tiny, stupid thing, but it bugged me. It bugged me, Dan. I don't remember if it was the net profit. I'm going to say that every time I get a chance to. Or if it was Thanatos. But one of them, I think it was the net profit guy, because he came from a different time period. Somebody at some point says something about like angry that all of these people covet their like wonderful world of 2099. I could not deal with that. That's like if somebody now showed up and was like, your world of 2014. No! It's a year! Like you can tell that's just this silly commercial thing. I hate to say that about David, but like it's this commercial thing of 2099 is a brand now that we're trying to make really big and make a big deal out of, so we're pretending like it's a whole other universe, even though we're also playing it as of regular Marvel. And if you don't believe me and you think I'm reading too far into this, there was a mini-series called World of 2099!
Really?
Yeah! And that just really bothered me. I'm almost positive. I'll look it up and make sure I'm right about that, but I'm pretty sure there was a thing called World of 2099. It's been a while, I don't remember. But anyway, even if that doesn't exist, that's still stupid, and I didn't like that.
No, like that is really funny. I kind of glossed over that as just being kind of corny, but yeah, if there's actually a miniseries that's named that,
World
right about that.
of 2090. Well, and that plays into the thing that we keep laughing about, which is if you're gonna call your book 2099, that means that everything that ever happens to this character has to happen in the same year. Like, thank God with current 2099, now that we've started it again, he's in present day, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. But then anything that ever comes,
just a dude from that year.
But anything they ever deal with in the future, they're gonna be like, this happened in the year 2099. Like, I'm waiting for like somebody to I don't know, show up from the future or something that's like, I'm from the year 3011. It's like, that's only 10 years, not 3011. I'm tired. 2111. But you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
3011.
The only like real complaint I have, other than like the villains, just their plots not being resolved, is I forget which issue it is, but there's a fill-in artist here that's not Rick Leonardi.
Oh yeah,
and they're a fine artist. They just don't draw Spider-Man right to me. Like I don't know, Spider-Man looks really bulky, like almost Hulk-sized in one of the issues here. And I don't know, like Spider-Man's gawky and like he's muscular, but he's got an athletic kind of build, and you know, he's relatively skinny when compared to other superheroes. That's the way I like my Spider-Man to look. And I know this is a different character, but like Rick Leonardi's kind of drawn him with the same Peter Parker-esque physique that the, you know, Spider-Man 616 has. So I don't know, like that was my only real complaint, other than the things we had mentioned before, is the Rick Leonardi when he draws this is fantastic, but like once you get a fill-in artist, it can kind of be hit or miss. We had one in the section that we reviewed before. I can't remember if it's the same one, but like I don't know. Rick Leonardi's style and sensibilities for this book, I think, are really particular, and I only really enjoy the art when he's on it. Maybe it's just because they don't get someone that's consistent with his style, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's 14, and I don't feel like you have to necessarily ape the other style, but I'm with you. At least don't make him look like he's like 400 pounds heavier. He's just so bulky. It's like the difference between, and he looks like Venom, but he looks like that.
Yes,
but he looks like that obnoxious, like. Well, I shouldn't say obnoxious. Some people like that Venom, but I mean, like it was always really jarring when you'd have somebody drawing something more like the McFarlane Venom, or one of the other, you know, major Venom artists whose names aren't coming to me right now. And then
and stuff like that.
Bagley, thanks. And then you'd have somebody else come in, and they draw him like with these huge shoulders that went almost like over his head, and he's just like he's like big and giant. He looks like they like 2099 looks like that in this, and I'm just like, how many Twinkies have you eaten today? You know, like what happened? You know, steroids and Twinkies and steroids. In the world of 2099, Dan, they put steroids in Twinkies now.
I wish I could get that ripped and eat Twinkies. Believe me, that would be the best thing
man. It's like that's the new thing going on. That's the new fad in 2099. Well, what else do we want to say about this, Dan? Anything?
Nothing really that I can think of. It's just sort of like, I feel like these issues were like Peter David either just making the best of what he could in filling in between like the beginning and the crossover, or him just having to stop his story to do this Thor thing. But the Thor thing's always been there kind of at the beginning, so it feels organic. Maybe he knew that was where he was going to eventually be headed.
You gotta love that they're dealing with that already.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I would have rather not crossed over into the other 2099 books, to be honest. Like,
no, me too.
Just like I read part of 17 because I didn't really know, like at that point when I sent you that message, what was going on. So I was like, I'll continue reading just in case, like, we're going to review all 20, so I'll have it all read. And like the recap at the beginning, like all these characters where I'm just like, I don't need to know anything about these people, you know? Like, maybe I could be made to care, but I just have a feeling I'm not going to. I don't know. Maybe that's unfair of me, but
having read a couple of issues here and there or other 29.99 books, it's a pretty good bet.
Okay. I mean, Doctor Doom was like the only one I was kind of interested in.
But that I want to read all on its own at some point. You know, that's the thing I'd like to review, because there's some major talent on that book.
Yeah, I remember. I had no idea. You messaged me. You said Warren Ellis wrote issues of that. I was like,
Warren Ellis wrote a bunch of that.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's awesome. When that guy's on, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
he's a great writer.
I mean, I haven't read it. I don't know if it's any good, but
right, exactly.
I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see where that crossover goes, and hopefully it's good. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to see where all this goes. I mean, maybe that'll be the feeling the whole series until the end, because it's just one long ongoing story, you know.
Well, and I still am guessing that it doesn't get a definitive ending, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know, it might, but I just don't. I never got the sense of that just looking at covers. I mean, I don't. You're right. I don't know anything, but you look at that last cover and you would assume some kind of, you know, definitive. This is the end of this book or something, and it is not there. So I don't know. Maybe we'll be surprised. I don't want to pretend like I know things I don't know, but.
Right, but I think I've heard that too.
Oh, okay.
I'm not. I haven't read all of it.
I mean, that's part of why we're doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I know just about as much as you do about it.
Yeah.
But,
well, we don't want to do any research because then we'll learn things that we don't want to know yet as we're reading this.
I don't want to spoil this book from almost 20 years ago now for myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
it's more interesting to review it that way.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see where it goes. I don't really have all that much to say about it other than the costume continues to look awesome.
Yeah, I really like it too. Well, all right, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. We will be back with you again soon with another Comic Vault, and we're gonna, like I said, try to get those issues. So we may have to jump to some other things and then come back to this over the next few weeks. But anyway, we sure appreciate you watching. Thanks a bunch. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Happy reading.